This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Eldorado Gaming. Eldorado Gaming is your site for gifts and gaming accessories like dice, playmats, and other items to bling out your games. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Eldorado Gaming, or our home site at eldoradogaming.com. Here at My Mythical Meta, we talk about gaming with friends and strangers, resolving conflicts, and keeping game nights fun, interesting, and recurring. Our game of choice is Magic the Gathering, but our hope is that what we share is relevant for board game players, RPG groups, and maybe even your poker night. I'm Travis. With my friends Derek, Randy, and Benjamin, we've been playing Magic together since 2014, and every game day is fresh and exciting. We've got families, we've got jobs, but with the power of friendship, our games go on. Subscribe to My Mythical Meta, presented by Eldorado Gaming, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, presented by Eldorado Gaming. This is Travis, and I'm joined by my three co-hosts, my brother Benjamin.
Hello. My
two best friends, Derek and Randy.
What's up?
Everybody say hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Real enthusiastic.
Welcome.
Right?
Today's topic is about good sportsmanship. I don't know about you guys, but I learned about good sportsmanship by watching anime growing up. I learned about good sportsmanship through watching Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dragon Ball Z. Those were all the places where I learned about good sportsmanship. We've got Ash and Gary. We've got Goku and Vegeta, Yugi and Kaiba. I added in here Amuro Ray and Char from the original Gundam series. These classic rivals.
Kuwabara
These
and
are just a
Urameshi.
few. What'd you say?
Kuwabara and Urameshi.
Urameshi.
You guys are throwing too many anime references. We gotta appeal to modern day or
No, these are our people.
You got your Vin
Urza
Diesels
and
and you got your
Mishra.
Dwayne Johnsons.
Who else in American pop culture?
Yeah, well, I said Urza and Mishra, but actually I guess that's a grudge more than a rivalry.
Yeah, that's a grudge. I don't know if that's a rivalry.
Maybe like the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox?
Now you've lost everybody.
Yeah, nobody's listening anymore. You just caused the 8 people who did listen to shut off their podcast. So we're talking about the great tradition of good sportsmanship. And the first part of our podcast today is about rivalries. Having a rival pushes us to greater and greater heights. So we start off by describing what a rival is. A rival, in the context of our podcast, is somebody else that is playing the same game as you. This is a gaming podcast, and so you want a rival who's obviously playing the same game. And an important thing about a rivalry is regularity. It's got to be someone that you will face again and again and again. Goku and Vegeta have attained their extreme power by fighting each other constantly. Vegeta constantly wants to overpower Goku. He finally wants to beat his rival, and that is something that keeps Goku pushing himself as well. A person becomes a rival by being a measuring stick for one's own skills. I want all of us to kind of describe your first rival. Benjamin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so my first rival is a really good friend of mine named Will. And Travis, I know you maybe want me to say it's you, but
oh no, I understand.
Yeah. And actually, I'm gonna say Will, but it might actually be my dad. I mentioned in the last episode how I started with gaming with my family, and my dad was somebody I could just never beat. So it always became a goal of mine to try. You know, I would practice. I would think of different strategies or whatever to try to beat him at games. and ultimately I never did. He was always better than me. But that was something that really pushed me. He would play games with me and he would teach me, and it's one of the things that helped me to get better than other people, was that I always had someone who would beat me. And then in our family, now it wasn't you specifically, but we did have a gaming family in the sense that when playing games like foosball and ping pong and frisbee and darts and pool and stuff like that. And
yeah, lots of games in the garage and activities everywhere.
Yeah, and Mom and John were really good foosball players. Like, I don't know
they were.
how they got to be so good, but now I'm a very good foosball player, and I don't know. I have not yet beat anybody who could beat me or I've not met anybody who could beat me consistently. Right, so and that's years later, and I don't play it all the time. But the first person who was really my equal, where we were developing together, and we were constantly trying to beat each other, and so we'd one up each other. And sometimes he'd have the upper hand, sometimes I'd have the upper hand. Was my friend Will, and I mentioned him in the last episode where he came over one day. He had just moved to our neighborhood, and actually. You may not know this, but the first time I met him was not when he showed up at our door, but was at school, right? He moved into our neighborhood and started going to our school. And he was really mean to me. He was kind of a bully.
No.
Yeah. And
Because he liked you.
What?
Because he liked you.
Oh, yeah, right, of course.
Was
So
he dipping your pigtails in the inkwell?
no, he was I don't know. He was he would just be really sarcastic and mean, and this is like third grade. And so when he showed up at my door, he knocked on the door, and I was like, who is this? Like, why is he here? I don't like him, right? And I don't know what possessed me to say, sure, come on in, when he said, hey, can I play? But he was like, can I come in and play? And I was like, we just got a new game, I guess so. Come on in. And so Mom and I taught him 13 Dead End Drive, which was a fun game, and it's still fun if I could find it. I don't know what happened to it. Mom probably has it. But
it's like a murder mystery game.
Yeah.
You're trying to find out where the inheritance is hidden or something.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. But you set up all these booby traps around the house to try to kill off your all the other players. Or you try to get you set up the booby traps at the beginning of the game, but you move them towards the booby traps to try to kill them off, and then while you're looking for the inheritance, it's pretty fun. But it's a kid game, and it pretty soon we progressed to Monopoly and Risk, and we would spend hours playing Risk all the time. I still have a picture of us and some of our other friends playing Risk. And he's the one who convinced you to never trade with me in Monopoly.
This is true.
And even though I very rarely won at Monopoly, because either you were more lucky or he would convince y'all. He knew that I beat you at everything, so he would come and convince you definitely want to trade with me and not Ben. And
yeah, Will could manipulate my rivalry with Benjamin in order to serve himself.
Yes, and he did that
You love to
often.
see it.
and so we played that. And then he's one of those guys that was in our scout troop that we got into role playing games, and we would try all sorts of campaigns with all of us taking turns DMing or making characters and playing or whatever. And then we eventually got into poker, and we would take each other's money, and we both got into sales, and it's just always trying to one up each other. But it was really healthy. Like, neither one of us was a bad sport. Like, when one of us was better than the other at a game, we took it as a challenge to improve ourselves, and not as a, man, I don't like this person, right? He may have mistreated me when we first met, but we eventually became really good friends, and within a couple years we were best friends, and would hang out constantly, playing games or not. But it was, it wasn't just like last podcast. It wasn't just about the game, right? We were friends in many different ways, but
Right.
but it started with games in this case, and that's, I don't know that there's a better definition of rival than what we went through. Just always trying to beat each other at every game we could think of.
When you mentioned our family, I remember you playing Scrabble with Momo Irene.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And how that was a rivalry also.
Absolutely. Yeah, she now I'm almost certain I could beat her now.
Yeah. I think so too.
Yeah, but yeah, all during our childhood there was no way. Like, she and Pawpaw knew all those weird 2-letter words that where you could,
that use an X, that use a Q, that use a Z,
yeah, and
or you can just stick them and get 30 points.
Yep. All those weird words that have like just vowels or just anything, so that you weren't stuck, and you could use all those strategic places. And I learned all that from them, and now they're, when Words with Friends became a thing about 10 years ago, and everybody was playing Words with Friends, I was pretty consistently beating everybody on Words with Friends because of what I learned from family. It goes right along with how you started everything with it, which is the rivalries push you to improve. Like, you don't always feel the improvement because your rival is either keeping up with you or sometimes staying ahead of you, but then you go and play with someone else and you're like, wow, you're nothing like my rival. Right?
Oh yeah. So on that same Scrabble bent, during COVID a couple of years ago, I was playing Word Wars with Kristen and with her mom, Linda. And both of them, I was just constantly, 20 points ahead.
Yeah.
It was just easy pickings. So I'm going to talk about my first rival, and it is my older brother. It is Benjamin, the guy who just said that I was nothing to him, that I was an insignificant ant, a peon compared to his gaming prowess. No, I think this is a pretty common experience. My older brother is the person that was better than me at games. Now, I think it
Really
makes
at everything.
sense.
Okay.
Was. Go on.
Was. So, Benjamin is 4 years older than me.
Yeah.
And when you're a child, that is a significant amount of brain development. But it doesn't help that Benjamin is a genius anyway. He is a very strategic thinker. And we all still see that as as we play with him in Magic too. But this happened for lots of games. Pokemon trading cards. I remember playing Mario Kart on the Super NES.
Yep.
That was an experience that is burned into my brain. It's branded into my bloody thumbs. How often we would play, and I would just try to get better and better. And it was always first place, second place. First place, second place. And Super Smash Brothers. I got a Nintendo 64 for my birthday, I think. And then Benjamin was a lot better than me at Smash Brothers. Same when it came to the GameCube, when we played Super Smash Brothers Melee. I would discover these games and then eventually get a copy for myself and my brother. And then he would always just figure it out faster than I could. But that makes him a really great rival. It's somebody that I'm regularly playing games with, that I'm regularly facing, and just like Benjamin was talking about how his dad would teach him as he was playing games, Benjamin would teach me too. I can remember the two of us sitting on the floor with our Pokemon cards spread out, and we were building decks together, and you would tell me what trainer cards you were using and what strategy you were going to use to get out the Pokemon that you needed. I'll never forget your damage swap.
Yeah.
Green, or I said green, grass and psychic deck.
Yep.
But it had an engine with Dark Dragonair, where you would use Dark Dragonair's Evolutionary Light ability in order to fetch out all the cards from your deck that you'll need, and then you evolve them into Dark Dragonite and summon minions.
Yeah.
Which would get out your lower evolution cards. So it was things like that, while I was just in the phase of, well, I want to play all fire Pokemon. So I'm going to put a bunch of Growliths and Arcanines, and then I'm going to do a bunch of Charmanders, Charmeleons, and Charizards. Like that's how I was. Or I would say, hey, firefighting. I'm going to make a fire and a fighting deck. Like that's the level I was at, while Benjamin is really seeing the code in the Matrix and figuring out how all these cards work together. But we would play together, and he would give me advice while he played, and the two of us were involved in a Pokemon League at the mall. A trading card game league where they would mark your games, they would mark how many wins and losses, and they would have tournaments and stuff. And he and I would always do really, really well. Not only did we attend really regularly and earn a lot of points that way, but we were winning lots of games too. After you left for college, Benjamin, that's basically the time that I met Derek. You graduated in 2004, and I think it was probably 05 or 06. Derek was only a year younger than me. And I met him at school, and Derek almost immediately became my new Pokemon rival. Yeah. Derek played Pokemon online, or on Nintendo DS with me, and for many years, I think we kept playing Pokemon until through the time we lived together in 2014 for sure, but even just recently when Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out, we were playing that and kind of keeping up with who was what level and what Pokemon each other had. But the only reason I was playing Pokemon was because you were playing. And we would do those battle train activities together, and we would just fight each other all the time. So having somebody to constantly practice against always means that your own skills are improving. And the really funny thing is that a couple of years ago, when I was a teacher and I was the sponsor of the anime and gaming club, I had several students challenge me to Pokemon battles, and I still had my my Pokemon X and Y. I thank God that those games had battle recorders, because I recorded those battles and I would wipe the floor with them using the Pokemon that I had trained and the strategies that I had developed for my battles with Derek.
I feel like they would use, they were using like legendary Pokemon trying to beat you, and
exactly, they were using all legendary Pokemon. I had a setup with my Crocodile and then my Dragonite, and I did a Dragon Dance Outrage complete sweep of the kid's entire team. So Derek was one of my favorite rivals, and obviously everybody in this group is a rival now. I developed my Magic decks thinking of each person and what tools I need to combat y'all's tools, but I want to keep going. Derek, share your perception of our rivalry, or share any other experiences of rivalries, maybe with Steven or with Randy.
So I have a whole laundry list of things I could talk about with this stuff. I guess I'll just go chronologically. I feel like my first rivalries were like with y'all is my family. My dad, I'm not saying he's stupid or anything, but he's not like a someone who like studies and reads and all that stuff. You know, he's not the kind of guy you would think. But he's very good at chess, and I don't know where he learned it. But as a kid, I would always try to play him, and he would beat me every single time. I don't think I've ever beat him still. We haven't tried playing in like 10 years, but or maybe 20 years now. But yeah, I feel like I was never able to beat him. And I also have a younger brother. He's 1 year younger. And so we did play like a lot of games together. There were like a lot of fighting games that came out when we were kids, and we'd play against each other. Fighting each other is kind of like the only thing you could do in those games. But I guess I never saw my brother as a rival in those times. Well, I mean, myself also is that I wasn't, any kind of good. I was just pressing buttons. He was pressing buttons. There wasn't any kind of skill. And I never tried to get better at chess. I just kept trying, keep throwing my head at the wall, trying to beat my dad at chess, and it wouldn't work because I wasn't learning from him. I was just trying to, press the buttons in chess, so to say, to try to win. It wasn't till, I feel like it was like 2004, 2005. I don't remember. My friend Steven, who is how I got introduced to Travis later on, we would all hang out and play like Smash Brothers at the time, and I had never had a GameCube. This is Smash Brothers Melee. I never had a GameCube, so I didn't know how to play Smash. And I would sit there, and Stephen would always play NES, and so
I remember him playing NES.
He would beat me so hard, but I he'd beat me so hard, and I say again until I learned it. I would just pick Mario, just keep playing Mario, just so I can learn one character and kind of get all the mechanics down. And I don't know if I ever got as good as him, but I did get good from being beaten all the time.
You definitely got good.
Yeah. And I feel like you were already better than I was, too. So, I could keep my own. I was, like, catching up to you, and I feel like I still had ways to go with Steven. That was, 2004 or something like that. And then the next thing we got into was Pokemon, I think in like 2009 or something. I was working at Hastings, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. So that would have been...
I think Pokemon Platinum had just come out.
I think it was Platinum.
Yeah. So I had like an employee discount for games, movies, all that stuff. So I bought one just with my nothing paycheck, and Travis, I think you already had it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started playing together. We talk about where we were, what Pokemon we caught, what we were thinking of, like what kind of strategies we were thinking about. And then the new games would come out, and I think Black and White and Black and White 2 is when like you can start doing like co-op. There was
the Battle Train co-op activity, and it had mini games where you could EV train your Pokemon.
Yeah. So we had that. So Travis and I would, like you said, we would play against each other, but we'd also play with each other against the AI, and we'd work on strategies that complement each other. And I don't want to be the one that is holding the team back, so I'm constantly on the internet. At the time, I think it was like Cerebi or something like that, and Smogon, and like all these guides about like why this Pokemon's good at this thing but not good at this other thing. Learning the kind of ins and outs, getting your type coverages and stuff like that. And I just, I guess that's kind of my thing. It's like I get like a fixation or something like that, and I really just kind of learn everything there is to know because I want to be the best. So Travis was good in that way. We would kind of, I don't know what the expression is, like where you sharpen each other.
Yeah, iron sharpening iron.
Yeah, exactly. So we spent years doing that, especially when we would live together. I think we played like almost every day.
Yeah, for sure. And that's when we briefly got Randy into Pokemon X and Y also.
Which is also when we started dabbling with Magic. So it's kind of like, we put down one thing and then we started picking up another addiction. And so now, like we said, all 4 of y'all are my rivals. And again, it's iron sharpening iron. I want to be better than you guys, so I'm always out there reading as much as I can, learning as much as I can, so that way I can show up on game day and try to win a lot. I see myself at like peer level with Travis and Randy. I feel like playing y'all is like punching across now, but I feel like Benjamin is that mountain I still need to climb, because I feel like he is a very. I'm not. I don't want to puff up his ego too much, but I feel like he's a very strategic, smart player, and he's been playing longer than I have. Which it's not everything, but I want to be better than him. So I like when we play games together, even if I'm losing.
I don't think you lose as often as you maybe feel you do. I think you beat me most of the time.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is that we all know that you probably have the better decks or the stronger decks or whatever, and so we always try to take you out first.
I have a few strong decks, like a few decks where I went all out to maximize them. Edgar Markov and Orvar and a few others. But most of my decks, and this is probably for another podcast, but because of our meta and the way it is, most of my decks are not maxed out so that we can have a fun time.
Yeah, Benjamin actually powered down his Orvar deck after Randy and I got grumpy one game.
We were over at Travis's with just I don't think you were there, Derek, and Orvar basically stole everything on the board, and they were very unhappy, as you might imagine.
Yeah, we were grumpy after that one.
I've played that Orvar deck once, and the kind of bind you need to keep track of anything going on is high level stuff. I played it, and I like halfway through like a 30-minute turn, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Have I won? I don't know, guys.
I'm glad that I wanted you to talk only briefly about Steven, because I think Benjamin and Steven are really similar people.
Analytical.
They're just super analytical. Yeah. And when you play games like Magic the Gathering, where it's all, every game piece interacts with another to create this insane Rube Goldberg machine worth of interactions, it can be a huge challenge to overcome players like that. Now, I think Magic is such a great game where people of any style can still find good strategies to play with. And you don't have to be an extremely analytical or right-brained person to be good at Magic. There are things in Magic for any type of player to do. But Benjamin is that player that I am still trying to overcome, that I'm still just trying to understand some of the decks that he can create. So yeah, when Derek and Randy started learning Magic, our entire group has become a rivalry. And as each person gets better at the game, the rest of us are always trying new things in order to keep up. Randy was probably the definitely like he's the most recent of us to start playing Magic. And there was a time when he was like, "What's that card do?" Even for cards that we had played over and over again, like Solemn
Even
Simulator.
for cards that were in his own deck.
What's that card do? Even for cards in his own deck, he would say, "Hold on, I got to reread this."
I still do that.
But even Randy's decks have gotten really, really good. His Darien King of Kieldor deck is insane, using a strategy that not a lot of people value in EDH, using life gains.
It is one of the boogeymen that I have to sit there and think about, how is my current deck going to beat that deck?
Yeah, how is the deck that I'm constructing right now gonna overcome 200 life and 200 soldier tokens?
The answer is easy, baby. Green
that
Voltron.
But I wanted to bring that up, Randy. I would like you to share your perception or experiences of any rivalries you have. Obviously in our own group, but maybe anybody, any of your past experiences that we don't know about too.
So, I've been sitting here trying to think of, my first rival or longest running rivalry. I have an older brother as well, and so I guess there was a little bit there, but he's 3 years older than me, and I guess I was never as much of a rival with him. Usually I was trying to do something to impress him. So if we're playing a game.
Oh, Benjamin, that's what I was always trying to do.
What, impress me?
Not just beat you mercilessly for my own pride. It was always to impress you.
Aw, I think.
That's me being sarcastic.
Oh. Savage.
I remember beating you at Magic for the first time at Momo's house and walking around saying, I did it. I finally did it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Randy, go ahead.
No, it's fine. But it was me and my brother have a lot of very different interests. We had a little bit in gaming, but a lot of time it was co-op. So again, it's hard for me to really call him a rival as much as either I wanted to do something to impress him. Maybe that's just like a part of being a little brother sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like I do that a bit in our meta. So whenever I'm trying to design a deck, I'm trying to find something a lot of times that either hasn't been done in the meta or something that's very obscure so that I can present it and be like, see what it did, look at that, So, I of course I want to win, and it's fun getting better, but I say I mostly play for the social aspect of it. I play the game because I want to hang out with y'all.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the heat of the moment, I may get I really want to win, and tensions may get a little bit higher, but then afterwards I'm that's whatever. I'm trying to think what else.
Yeah, you and I never really had any kind of rivalry. We always played stuff together.
Yeah. I like I said, I play games, be it video games or this game for camaraderie. I want to do it to hang out with people. I used to play a game called Apex with a couple of friends, and I hated playing on my own, but I loved playing with them. And then when they had a falling out, it was well, I don't care to play this game anymore.
Drama in the meta group? Oh, God, they need to listen to this podcast.
Oh, no.
Right.
I don't think there's any coming back. I think they got too heated in IRL, and I think their friendship ended.
Oh, you hate to hear it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that there's an aspect of team games that could be attributed to a rivalry. I think somebody mentioned not wanting to hold the other, not wanting to hold the group back. Yeah, when we were playing Pokemon, we both wanted to make sure that we had good Pokemon ready for the game. That way, one person wasn't carrying. And I think that still applies to lots of team games. Games like Pandemic or games like Marvel Legendary. We want to make sure that our deck is doing good so that we can help the team win. This is something that I learned not only through game playing and anime, but also in my experience as a teacher. Mm-hmm. We worked in what was called a PLC, a professional learning community, and it's important for each person to do well. And whenever a person's not doing well, they bring their data to the group. They bring their data to the team so that the team can offer support and encouragement and techniques for success. So I think there's plenty of healthy rivalry that can happen in team games also.
I wanted to add, I just kind of remembered. I'm not sure if it's rivalry or if it was me just wanting to be like, surprise, look at this, So back to Smash. I did not grow up with a lot of Nintendo products. We were a Sony and Xbox family. So, playing games with Travis and Derek in particular, it's like, oh, let's play Smash. And it's like, you're looking at a GameCube controller and you're like, why is there what is this thing?
Why does this look like a little child's toy?
Yeah.
Not even a child's toy. Why does this look like an AI was told to make a spaceship in a video game controller, and this is what it came up with?
Why are all the buttons different sizes?
But like there's no symmetry anywhere.
Yeah.
And so going from trying to learn that new game and just getting just absolutely destroyed constantly, while I'm like, okay, now how do I do a jump and then an attack? And then I'm over getting juggled. I wish I could figure out the controls, but I'm in the air too much. So, that inspired me. I went out one day and I just went and bought a Switch. And I
didn't tell anyone.
Buy this Switch. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't tell anyone. I thought
this was so funny when it happened.
I went out. I bought a Switch. I bought whichever Smash was the current one for that.
Smash Brothers Ultimate, the most recent one.
And I had a friend at my old job named Mario, and he is a fighting games like aficionado. So we're like, all right, I want you to teach me. And he was teaching me how to play and, kind of like combos and just how things are supposed to like work in that game. And I'm sure no one who I used to work for is ever going to listen to this podcast. We would be at work during the summer months, and we would like hook up the Switch to the projector while we're supposed to be repairing Chromebooks at the school, and we're projecting Smash Brothers up in his office, doing that for a couple hours every day during summer when we were on our own. And I was learning how to play Smash. I would go home and I would do more practice, and like Derek, I think I had 3 characters that I practiced on: Rob, Roy, and Ridley. Yeah, all R's. Yeah. Huh? I realized that all R's, and I'm also an R. Yeah. So those are the 3 that I kind of trained on to give me a little bit of variety. But I was like, I want to get down, so that I'm not trying to jump to save myself from the edge, and I am using that boxer dude, and he just flings himself off, and he has no jump back.
Yeah.
Little man has no jump game whatsoever.
None. He just flings himself into oblivion, and it's like, well, I don't want to play this character. But I didn't want to play cheese characters either. So yeah, I probably had it for about a month, and I was playing daily for about a month before I think we were all hanging out at Derek's apartment. And it came up, it's like, oh, I want to play some Smash, and I was like, oh, I guess. And then I'm like, I don't know who to play. I guess
so. And he pulls out his Pro controller.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, it was still a wired one. It wasn't really a $1 one, but still. But I was like, yeah, I got a controller then. And then I just go straight to, I think it was Roy at that time, and I was like, yeah, that's right.
It was Randy first.
Yeah, that's right, guys.
We're gonna bleep it. It was Randy.
No. We're gonna do a hard cut right here. 3, 2, 1. I remember what I was saying, but I was like, all right, guys, let's roll.
Yeah.
And I didn't just get juggled the entire time, and that was like my I wanted to impress y'all or just like surprise, I guess.
Yeah.
Elicit that reaction, and so that's.
The element of surprise was such an experience. I remember that day like it was yesterday.
I love surprising
Randy
people.
Just showing up and beating the 2 Kristens, and then holding his own with me and Derek.
Yeah, I mean, it's something about it. I just love.
It would be Travis and I fighting each other because we were at the same skill level, and everyone else, like Randy, didn't have much experience. And the Kristens didn't play a super amount. So it would be kind of them 3, in the pit together.
One corner.
And then Travis and I be
Yeah.
Duking it out.
yeah,
Fighting
and then
on
we
the
just clean up who
platforms
was
and stuff
left
like that.
afterwards.
Yeah. I just love a good surprise,
Yeah.
Like, I moved to an apartment probably a block from Derek at one point.
Didn't tell me.
And I didn't tell him for like 3 months. Because I wanted to have my apartment. Well, I wanted to have my apartment like all like set up, but I had a whole issue with furniture getting delayed because of COVID and everything like that.
Yeah, Randy's all about the element of surprise.
Yeah, his good Magic decks, he always
comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, Niv Mizzet and Darian. It's like, okay, I got them all put together. I remember when he pulled those out, and the one he gave me for Christmas. For the Secret Santa.
Oh my God, Rograk and Ardenn. That is a boogeyman of our format too.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah. So I know it's not really much of a rivalry, but I guess like it's I am like driven to do better by wanting to just like have fun with y'all. Doesn't mean to beat, but I just want to get a good reaction out of it, and that's what kind of drives me, I guess, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's a way that you get joy out of the game.
Yeah.
I know we all feel this way, but I'll say it anyways. I need rivalries to like stay interested. If I'm winning every single game, I don't want to play that game anymore because it's boring. But if there's, if I'm playing against you guys and Randy pulls out a surprise and I get knocked out, cool. Like now I get to plan for more stuff. Like it gets the gears rolling for planning, thinking, and all that stuff that interests me. And as much as I want to win, I don't want to win every single game.
Yeah,
I agree. Like whenever somebody pulls out a deck that I've never seen before that does something that I can't counter, well, now I'm thinking about that in every future deck that I build. I think in the last 2 or 3 decks that I've built, I've included a card that in some way says your opponents can't gain life. Because that is a strategy that Randy has used and weaponized so well that if I don't have an answer for it, if I don't have a silver bullet for it, then I won't be able to go over the top. I won't be able to take it out. The same is true for making me sacrifice my own creatures.
I think about that every
Benjamin
time now.
has lots of decks that do this, and it's something that I'm, again, always thinking about whenever I build a deck. Even a deck that is not concerned with its graveyard at all, I'm often including just a few pieces of graveyard recursion for those that are uninitiated. That just means cards in my discard pile. I need to be able to get those cards back because if a key game piece has been put there from the deck or made me sacrifice from the battlefield to put it there, and I don't have a way to get it back, then again, I'm stuck just drawing cards from the top, knowing that I might never get it.
Yeah.
Thinking about y'all's decks and thinking about whatever new trick one of you did the last game, that's something that I have to be thinking about every time I'm building now. Derek's Thrun deck is something that I'm thinking about in every game now. I think, man, do I need to start putting back more board wipes? There was a time where I would include 5-ish board wipes in each deck I made, but I felt like that was way too much. It was causing games to go on really long. And there's, kind of in the last 2 years, I started putting only single target removal in my decks. Well, Thrun looks at all my single target removal that's not green, says, that's a good try. That's a good effort.
It makes me laugh.
Yeah, that's cute. So maybe I do need to start adding, 1 or 2 more board wipes back into my decks just so that I have an answer.
And then when you do that, I'll start adding more protection, like indestructible and stuff like that, which I should be doing already. But it's just that arms race that never ends.
The never-ending arms race is And not in terms of money. We'll probably do another episode about budget in the future and how our play group manages budget. But the arms race in terms of strategy, like how all of our deck building is constantly changing because we always want to be the next person to do something cool at the table. Benjamin, did you have something you wanted to add? I think I talked over you.
The way that y'all build decks is absolutely something to consider. I think we've slowly changed over what we want to, we've changed how we want to build decks based on what kind of games we want to play and that sort of thing. And that's part of having a meta at all is that adjustment that comes from I want to win and they are doing this thing, so now I have to adjust, and our decks are significantly different than what you might find at a random LGS or Magic Fest or things like that, because different people play different kinds of games, and they might look at that and say, why do I need a board wipe? No one's playing Thrun, right? No one's playing these unkillable creatures, and right, and then Derek shows up and he's like, well, I am, and what are you gonna do about it? And
welcome to the trick room, baby.
Welcome to hell. I got you for 3 whole minutes.
Yeah, I'm glad that there's not like any real combo blue kind of stuff in our meta where it's like, all right, it's turn 3. I have my pieces. I go infinite and infinite turns. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's like I could build that, but I don't want to build that
not fun.
because I don't feel.
Right.
What's the point? Like the people who play competitive EDH, I get it. Live your life.
Yeah.
I want to hang out with my friends, and
do cool stuff.
Winning on turn 3 isn't really doing it for me, I guess.
Yeah, because you didn't really get to. It's like, I don't know, you didn't get to build your mini computer of like this triggers that and this and that. It's just like
I want to earn the victory instead of whoever happens to get the right 4 cards or 2 cards or whatever that they need for their combo first.
Yeah, and pretty much their entire deck is set up just to like, okay, I have 10 versions of this card and 10 versions of this same ability and 10 versions of this same ability. So I have a 35% chance of opening hand, getting every card I need. It's like, that's not fun.
I think I got that from watching Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters like Vegeta and Kaiba, those
right.
second best characters who I've always identified with because my brother was my rival. They are always saying things like, I want to beat him at his best. I want to beat him when he has every tool available to him. Vegeta is never saying, I want Goku to have a cold so that I can beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to kill him while he's sleeping.
Yeah.
I want him.
I don't want to kill him while he's sleeping.
Best.
I want to fight him when he's just had a senzu bean, when he's finally discovered some new level to his power. That's what I want to beat him at. And Kaiba says the same things. Like, Kaiba is a jerk in the series, but there was a movie that came out in 2017 called The Dark Side of Dimensions. Go check it out. It's pretty cool. But Kaiba has developed this computer program to emulate Yugi and Yugi's cards and stuff. And he beats it. And all of his lackeys, all of the scientists that work for him and whatever, they're like, you did it. You finally did it. And Kaiba says, no.
Good job, boss.
Kaiba says, no, I didn't do it. This is not the same. It's not the real Yugi. And Kaiba may not believe in the heart of the cards or the magic of the pharaoh or whatever, but that's what he's saying. He's like, that's what I have to beat. I have to beat the king of games. Just beating that deck is not enough.
Yeah, I need the person to know that.
Yeah, I need to see the look on their face when I have...
when they had every chance, they still couldn't do it.
When I overpowered them at their best. So that, to me, is what a 7 to 10 turn game is like. It's like everybody's had a chance to draw enough cards to put your game together. If it's a turn 3 combo deck, I already know that not everybody builds that way. And so if I'm the only one building that way, then it's just a given. My deck was designed to win on turn 3. And if y'all didn't design that way, then
you've won. There's no point of even playing this.
Exactly,
game,
because we weren't playing the same
one.
game almost. Like, we hadn't agreed on the rules of engagement.
It's like, why didn't y'all spend, $4,000 and get all your Moxes and your Lion's Eyes and all that?
Do you guys remember my Crewfix group hug deck from 3 or 4 years ago?
Slightly.
Was it Eldrazi?
No, it was just
everybody draw your deck, right?
Well, it was bounce Peregrine Drake, get unlimited mana, draw my deck, and then Blue Sun Zenith everybody out.
Seems vaguely familiar.
You may not remember it. Maybe you blocked it out. But it had a very high win percentage. I won 2 or 3 games in the same way and said, well, I did it. I'm going to take that apart because I'm not playing the same game as everybody else anymore whenever I play this deck.
Now, if you were to play that, now that our meta's changed so much, we all have very strong decks now.
Oh, yeah.
You could do that and still not win.
Yeah, that's how I feel about that. The deck I made based on that the Warhammer Precon. That
Trazen the Infinite?
Yeah, Trazen the Infinite. I've only played the deck the one time, and it did its thing. And I said, well, yeah, that's how every game's going to go, is I'm just going to fill the graveyard with stuff and then kill everybody. And
yeah. That's another reason why I took Tatiova apart, is because I'm going to win with Labman. And that's how every game's going to end. And it's like, ugh.
You could just build the deck without Labman.
Well, here's the thing. I will, but I would like to do it as an Omnath deck.
Right.
Because he's my little jelly bean.
Okay.
Your precious jelly bean.
Yeah.
So, we've talked now about why rivalries are fun. Rivalries are good. If we use each other's skills to put our own to the test, we all get better. And especially in an interpersonal rivalry like ours. We have a 4-person rivalry where our meta's constantly evolving, which means our games are always different. But this is an episode about good sportsmanship, and there is a negative version of this. And I think it's important to use a different vocabulary. That's called a grudge. When you perceive a slight or a wrongdoing against you personally, that's a grudge. And then we often seek retribution, or we seek revenge. In general, a grudge shouldn't happen between friends. Grudges have this undercurrent of revenge, that there's a score that needs to be settled. Some animes have this, especially in terms of Gundam or War, where the stakes are actually really high. And I think early in Dragon Ball Z, before Goku and Vegeta were friends, when Vegeta was still an enemy, it was a grudge. It was a personal slight on Vegeta when he saw that another Saiyan was more powerful than he is. Grudges are not good for friendships.
Or for games.
Or for any game. That's true.
Yeah.
Because if a grudge is seeking revenge often has a condition that's met, and then it ends. I think a lot of people in their minds, even if revenge doesn't actually do this for a person, we often associate the idea of revenge with, once I do this action to get them back, it's even. It's settled. But we don't want our friendships to end, and we don't want our games to end. It would really suck if Benjamin beat me at one game, I finally beat him, and then we said, great, we're never playing this game together again. Like, Randy says, oh man, that's what I hope for every week.
No, I honestly just saw the perfect GIF for this the other day, where it was
Yes, Bill Hader dancing.
No, surprisingly not. It's when Goku and Frieza have been fighting, and Goku has. I mean, he's beaten Frieza. Like Goku is like, all right, this is done. Freezes at full power, and he's like, listen, dude, you've lost. You're not even. This isn't a challenge anymore. I won. And then it's supposed to be like when he takes off, and it was just saying like whenever you get your butt handed to you over and over and over again, but then you finally get that one win, and you're like, I don't want to play this game anymore because I win, and you're not enough for me anymore.
Was that in Dragon Ball Super when they were fighting in space?
No. It's in the original Namek Saga.
Oh,
okay. Goku just stops mid fight.
No.
It's before he cuts himself in half.
Oh, okay.
Goku's like, listen, like this isn't a challenge anymore.
Yeah, I've surpassed you.
I've surpassed you, but it's just that someone turned it into a meme of, when you're the one that keeps getting beat over and over again, and you finally get that win, and then you're like, I guess I'm just better than you, so you're not a challenge anymore. Like, that person had a grudge, and now they're like, I'm done.
Yeah, once revenge has been satisfied, the revenge seeker doesn't have any reason to interact with that person anymore. They say, I'm done with the game, I'm done with this person, the slight against me has been evened, and we don't have to interact. But if your goal is to have a friend group that's always playing a game, or that always has things to do whenever you meet up, that's not... Grudges are not conducive to that. If you have a friend group that you want to keep playing games with, you want to keep coming back. You don't want to end like you might find with Revenge. You want a rivalry instead. You want a continuation of the game where the players keep improving. So seeking revenge in a game can be fun, but only if you're playing a character, and only if it stays in the context of the game. So if somebody in a game does something against you, I think Risk is a great example of this. Hey, I needed to hold Asia. Why did you keep coming back in and taking and Benjamin, what's the country that's in the top corner?
Kamchatka?
Kamchatka, that's right. Why'd you have to come in and take Kamchatka? I'm going to take it personally, okay? And I'm going to go against that person. So that can be fun, but only if you're playing a character, and only if you seek to satisfy the grudge within the game, and only through game actions. Once the game's over, outside the actions of the game, it's important to stay friends, and to stay rivals, trying to test their skills, and ultimately enjoying their time together. So I've got an example. It's an example that has happened more and more often, that people are starting to think about it and talk about it in their deck building. Recently, I have decided to start destroying people's mana rocks early in the game. If I draw removal and I can afford it for 1 or 2, and somebody else plays a ramp spell early in the game, like a Soul Ring, I will start saying, I don't want to waste this mana. I'm going to spend it now. Instead of saying turn 2, do nothing, I can say turn 2, spend this mana, blow up somebody's mana rock.
I can hear Randy.
Oh man, I am.
So I have this.
Ruffling my jimmies.
So I have this example from last time we played, where I destroyed Derek's Thought Vessel. This is a resource that can be used to pull ahead early in the game. In the game of Magic, you typically can play 1 land a turn, and your lands are the resource that you use to cast spells. Thought Vessel generates mana the same way a land does, so you can cast it early in the game, and then you spend the remainder of the game technically 1 land ahead, or 1 mana ahead, and that's why in Magic we call that ramp. So, early game, turn 2, he plays his Thought Vessel, I remove it immediately. I spend my resources removing his. Well, that is a perfect foundation for an in-game grudge. He retaliates, removing a piece from me, even though spending his resources in that way might put him at a disadvantage. Remember, if this is a 4-player game, now we have Benjamin and Randy, the 2 other players, who haven't been touched at all. Meanwhile, Derek and I are both down resources because we've been targeting each other. This is the foundation of a grudge that can last throughout a game. And it's fun. It can be fun in the game. We keep taking pot shots at each other. We call it sending a message. You know, it's not about losing or winning. It's about making sure he knows that he can't mess with me. You know, don't mess with me or else I'm going to spend my resources targeting you right back. This can be fun if it's through game actions. We puff our chests, we make a big show, and we play characters that are haughty and arrogant in order to create a fun story. I start acting like Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or I start acting like Yugi being the righteous one and treating Derek like a villain for trying to run ahead. It creates a fun experience. But it would be entirely different if I remove that thought vessel early in the game and then Derek throws his drink in my face.
Catch his hands.
You know, and Derek reaches across the table and throws my deck on the floor. That's bad sportsmanship. And it doesn't even have to be that extreme. Even just being grumpy or sulking. And we see that online all the time. People describe on Reddit situations where you remove something that you think is the threat. And to me, early game ramp is a threat. It means that somebody's going to get farther ahead than I am if I don't have that same level of ramp on my own.
He's certainly not wrong, because with enough mana, I tend to run away with things.
I mean, yes, that is the resource in the game.
I mean, circling back to the rivalry, this is the very reason why I have started putting a lot more single target removal into my new decks, because I'm going to start targeting those soul rings of yours as well, Travis.
I'm sure that it's
coming for you.
Oh, I'm ready.
It's coming.
I'm excited. I want to see you turn the tables. I want to taste my own medicine.
Midget and I are just sitting there.
That's right.
So even grumpily sulking is going to turn the game down. It's going to, and in some cases, turn the game off. People are going to finish that game. They're going to get up, move to a different table, or leave. And we see those actions as poor sportsmanship. And sometimes when it happens to us, we can, get salty. We can get that feeling whenever something has happened to us and we feel unfairly targeted. But those aren't game actions. Or excuse me, sulking, yelling, throwing a drink, those aren't game actions that can happen in Magic the Gathering. And so we see them as inappropriate. The interpersonal moves should still be friendly. If somebody removes my stuff early, I should be saying, if I'm not playing a character, I should be saying, you know what? You were right. If you saw that as a threat, it's because it was. I was going to pull ahead with that. I remember a story from Reddit a couple weeks ago. A person was describing an event where somebody just was constantly removing their mana, like I was describing to you guys with me and Derek. And obviously, later in the comments, people were like, well, what deck were you playing? Avacyn Angel of Hope. I used to play an Avacyn Angel of Hope deck. Avacyn requires 8 mana, and once she hits the field, everything you control is indestructible.
Yeah, that's deserved.
Well, if that's in your command zone, you're telegraphing it to the team, or to everybody at the table. We know that it costs 8. Somebody at the table said, if he never gets to 8, I don't have to deal with that threat. And so they just kept targeting the mana rocks. This person then goes onto the internet, complains, says they weren't able to do the thing. Well, it was a game action that this guy used to keep him out. To me, that seems fair, especially as someone who used to have an Avacyn deck in the past. Do you guys have any experiences or comments about grudges? Have you ever experienced a game that really got you salty that turned into a real-life grudge?
I have a lot of moments where I get salty. I'm trying to get better and not take things personally. I don't have any specific example, but I know when let's say I was playing that Avacyn deck. I want to cast the Avacyn. I want to do the one thing I built this deck to do. And if someone is rightfully so, targeting my stuff so that way I don't. Because when it comes on the field, like I'm gonna win unless someone can stop me another way. So if it never gets to that point, we never have to deal with it, like you said. So if I feel like I'm getting like targeted unfairly because like, oh, you're throwing all your stuff at me instead of other people, I could see how I could be certainly salty and form a grudge for like going into the next game, or maybe I hold on to that anger until the next time you play or something.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, the only times I get salty, I feel like, is when, obviously based on what y'all said, I have a bit of a reputation for being a good deck builder or doing things that are hard to deal with or whatever. And sometimes, and like I've mentioned before, I've depowered several decks, or I intentionally, like, I have a deck that's capable of drawing the whole deck. In fact, I lost playing that deck against Travis not too long ago because I drew my whole deck, and I intentionally
didn't have a way to win with it.
Yeah, I intentionally did not put Labman in there. Laboratory Maniac, for anybody who's not familiar, says instead of losing the game when you run out of cards, you win the game. And so there's things like that where it's like, no, I have the way I want to win, and I don't want to put a cheapie in there, right? Where that's a different game. And so because I have done things like that, I feel like our games are really good, but I still feel like sometimes I get targeted because when y'all see something you're not familiar with, you say, that's, we're all doing the things about evenly, but I'm scared of Benjamin. And so you attack me.
I'm suspicious of whatever he's got.
Right. And
I've seen that card come out of the graveyard way too many times this game.
Well, yeah, well, that's fair. That's fair.
Or it's a card we haven't seen, and we're like, there's no reason that card would be in there unless it's doing something extremely weird.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
right, and that's totally fair. And I typically don't have a problem with that. I deserved this, I earned this reputation. I deserve it, whatever. But the reason when I get salty is whenever I'm my deck is not doing the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it looks like it's doing the thing, but it's like, I guess what I'm saying is poor threat assessment. When the threat assessment is based on reputation rather than the board state,
rather than what's on the board, yeah.
Right, and I think that goes into the grudge thing where it's like, instead of looking at what's in front of us and making it a game decision based on what's actually happening, I'm going to base this game decision on previous games.
Yeah, on something outside the game, on a reputation or an interpersonal move that somebody made, even if it wasn't in the game that we're playing right now.
Right. Yeah. And I do want to caveat this for anyone who's listening. If if there's someone in your game group who does always win, it's okay to target them first, because that's how someone else is going to win. That's right. I'm a big fan of take whatever game action is going to help you win now or long term, right? Mm-hmm. This game or the next. Like that that makes sense. So what I'm saying here is, whenever I feel like someone else is closer to winning and that the appropriate game action for whoever's targeting me is to target someone else, that's when I get salty. Yeah, and so as far as the grudge thing goes, I don't know if that's exactly what you were talking about, but that's, to me, it's not a grudge so much as I don't know what it is, but it feels like a grudge, and it does make me salty sometimes.
Yeah, it starts to feel personal.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I just want to add, Benjamin, I think I'm on to you right now. I think you're saying this whole, like, sometimes I'm not even the threat you think I am. It's the reputation.
Benjamin's over here playing chess.
And then exactly, next time we're in the game store and we're playing, and I'm gonna be thinking, man, that looks really scary over there on his board. I should probably, like, I don't know, blow something up. But maybe I'm just perceiving it wrong. He did say we do that sometimes. I know what you're doing.
Oh my god!
I know what you're doing. See, he's so smart. He's taking it to the real world, metagaming us.
another thing is that if I could keep just talking about this, is when we first started, I know Randy and I definitely felt like Benjamin was always a huge threat. Because we both had garbage decks. We didn't have cards.
That is true.
We didn't have recursion.
That is true.
We didn't have good mana bases. Like our decks were garbage.
Precons mostly.
Precon, like barely upgraded precons, and playing against Benjamin's really good decks that are like finely tuned. We were getting stomped. But Randy and I, and Travis, you already had a lot of cards, so your decks were pretty good already.
Well, it wasn't until I started listening to podcasts, and I mean that totally busted open.
Yeah, it
completely changed the game. There's a level of player, and it's always important to remember that the huge majority of players only play the game.
Yeah,
like the vast majority, 80% of people playing your game only play the game. It's the top 20% that will find a podcast, they'll find a YouTube channel, they'll find an article series online of other people who have decided to take that next step, who have decided to study how the game works and start figuring it out on a deeper level. So once I found a podcast, that really blew my deck building wide open.
Yeah, me too. And Randy and I, we got better cards, and we started building better decks through trial and error, and through podcasting, and through
we got better jobs.
And we got better jobs.
Some more money to
support our
addictions.
addictions.
That's exactly right.
So the gap that used to be between my garbage deck and Benjamin's mid high decks was huge, but now it's like, I mean, maybe I'm tooting my own horn, but now there's not much of a gap at all.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree with you.
We played. Travis, you weren't there yet. We were waiting for you. We were playing quick games. Benjamin played Edgar Markov, and I played Thrun. And for the people who don't know, Edgar Markov is just kind of a machine, just an oppressive, hard to beat kind of guy. And my Thrun just we were 1v1ing almost the whole game, and I still almost killed you by myself.
Yeah.
Which, 2 years ago would never have been possible.
Yeah, we got a lot better.
I'm telling you guys, it feels good to beat Benjamin.
Yeah. It just feels good to win. Feels good to beat y'all.
Yeah.
With something like I've created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the cool things about a rivalry as opposed to a grudge is that rivalries are like a source of self-expression almost.
Yes.
Like
they're a celebration of what
yourself.
one person has accomplished.
Yeah.
Whenever one beats the other. There's another anime that I made my wife watch. It's a Gundam anime, but to me it felt like Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's called Gundam Build Fighters.
Yeah, Gundam Build Fighters.
Yeah, Gundam Build Fighters, where each person builds their own model, and then they bring them into these 3D fight arenas. If anybody out there played the GameCube game Custom Robo, it was exactly like that, where each person has their own little machine, and then they bring them into those 3D arenas. But, all of those finales, the end of each season, was all about self-expression, about how the suit that I made represents these parts of my personality, and it's those parts that are being celebrated, and how much we believe in ourselves, however cheesy that is. It's something that anime captures really well. Lots of anime captures that idea really well, that when you believe in yourself, you can accomplish more, and a good rivalry can help you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry, I kind of derailed us onto rivalries. You were talking about grudges.
Oh no, I mean they're intertwined. That's why I put these topics together. And as we were planning the episode, I was like, "Do y'all think these topics go together?" And I think our conversation has revealed that it does.
Yeah. So then, considering the difference, not just in time based, right? You said that right, rivalry grudges can end and rivalries go on and on. Are there any what do you do to prevent to prevent a rivalry from becoming personal, right? We've talked about how rivalries are sort of about you and your self-improvement and self-expression and all of that, whereas a grudge is all about beating the other person and ending it, right? Making it, I don't know, about retribution. How do you keep from having what someone has done in game? How do you keep from letting it get personal? What do you do?
That's a good question. I feel like the most important thing is just to remember this is just a game. We're trying to have fun, and for the four of us at least, we're here to play with each other, and we're not actively trying to we don't get to hang out every single day or every weekend like we used to because we all have lives now. Maybe just trying not to be like an optimal play or something like that. Like, I feel like I've been picking on Travis a little bit. Maybe I'll throw a little, even though it's hard to say. I don't know.
Well, I do like what you were saying about hey, maybe it's not all about optimal play. I think that's kind of getting to maybe where I was thinking we were going with this is ultimately you have to decide what's more important, the experience, the gameplay, the people, or winning. Because if you start looking at the people you're playing with as obstacles to your goal, right? They are keeping you from winning. Then of course it's personal, right? In any other aspect of your life, if your goal is to achieve something, get a job, win a prize, all right, and that's your one goal, not to be better, not to be hireable or whatever, but to get this thing, and then someone is standing in your way, that person is not a rival. They're not someone you like. You don't appreciate their existence. They are...
Yeah, they're an obstacle that you have to get through and step on their hands and back and all that stuff to get to what you want.
Exactly. So I think it requires a bit of an attitude shift, maybe kind of along the lines of what we talked about last episode of it's friends first, game second. And kind of we had a brief aside last episode about how, hey, sometimes you do go to play in a tournament or whatever just so you can crush people. And I think that when I'm playing in one of those tournaments at a higher level event and I'm not playing with friends, those people are obstacles.
Yeah, I'll throw every trick in the book, every infinite combo, anything. These people's friendships don't matter to me.
Exactly, and of course you do it fairly. I do care about sportsmanship more than winning, and about fairness more than winning, and so I won't cheat or those sorts of things. But
right, yeah.
But it's a...
Randy went through a phase where he was finding a lot of videos of Magic cheaters who had been caught.
Oh, yeah.
That's
so
fun to see that Schadenfreude and see, oh, look at this guy get caught cheating.
Yeah.
It's even better when they lose because they cheated. I mean, like not just because they got caught, but it's like
they screwed themselves.
They cheated and
they
then
cheated their way out of
themselves.
A win.
That's a real shit.
Because they were trying to over manipulate the game.
It's like, if I actually needed an extra land right now, but I stacked it so I didn't have a land on top, I put the spell, but now I've, this happened, and now I can't win the way I wanted to. And it's like,
I guess that kind of it ties back to last episode, and I guess the whole point of this podcast is to have that conversation of what do we want from this interaction, this game night we're having. Do we want to win? Do we want to just hang out? And that kind of modifies our social contract of maybe I'll do suboptimal plays so that way someone doesn't feel like they're just sitting there getting kicked all night or something.
Right.
Yeah, the moves we make should be friendly because the people that we're playing with are our friends. They're not just tools or objects to play a game with. They're not captives or hostages to play our games with. They're people
like your wife.
That hopefully we like, and we want to treat them like we want them to treat us like they like us.
Yeah. I'll say whenever we, whenever one of us isn't, there at the thing, we got to pick up a rando. I will always give a rando a fair shake. I will, try not to target them, anything like that. But it's not even this, a slight jab at me. I could be set off to just start railroading a rando very easily, just because it's like, you know what, I just don't want you here. I want to get you out of this game as fast as possible. It's probably nothing to do with like what they're playing. It could just be like literally like their personality is bad. It's like, well, I can't be making it out of game.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna get rid of them,
Right.
but with in-game actions. You know, it's like I could just say like, "Hey, man, get out of here," but like, let me get you out of here with an in-game action of just
you can kind of use the game as the excuse to.
Yeah,
I usually
let's wrap this game up and then go do a like, oh, we're gonna go get dinner. Yeah. Maybe we'll play later.
When we have like a random person, I feel like I go the opposite way for the most part, unless they're just kind of like a crappy person. I don't like, it's the three of us versus an outsider. They already feel like an outsider. I don't want to pick on them extra hard. I'll go harder on my other two friends so that this person kind of, feels like it's not so bad. They're not picking on me or anything. I don't want to be a bully.
Right.
I guess
I'm more like that. Yeah.
I'm the exact same way, except for that one guy who has a $4,000 deck that's full of Moxes.
Yeah.
And says it's a 7.
And, literally just him. I will target him with everything.
But I hope
have.
you brought your A game.
But everybody else, I'll like never target.
Yeah, if someone, if we're like, hey, we're playing like a casual, we're at like a 5 or 6, we're using decks we just made for the first time, and they're like, okay, yeah, I'll bring something out, and then I see like an original dual land, I'm like, oh, okay, everything's coming at you.
Assessment.
If you spend $1,000 on a land,
yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's like, it's like, okay, if you're spending that much money on a land, good lord, what else do you have in there? I have to get rid of you ASAP. But also, it feels like that's your 7. That a $2,000 deck is your 7? Okay.
That guy's Brea deck with original dual lands. Like I just see red. When
wait, this in my face.
Yeah, and it's just like, if you had just been honest and said like, I'm bringing a 10.
Yeah, it's a 6. Just a Narset Infinite.
We play different meta.
Oh, I remember that guy too.
Forget.
Yeah, or if someone is just petty and is just like, the whole store's closing. Well, we're in the middle of a game, so it's a draw. Like the store is physically closing. We all scoop, and then it's like, well, you scoop because you had priority, and then you scooped, and then you scooped. Well, I scooped last, so I win. I'm like, I'm never going to play with this person again. I will hold that grudge till the day I die. Because it's just like... Nah.
And those people should be listening to this podcast about how to be a better friend.
Yeah. Because that is not how you get a consistent
That's why he's playing with us. Because...
Yeah.
But he didn't have a consistent
The rando that shows up in our group is the person who doesn't have a group to play with. They're the person who sees all the people at the shop as a tool to play their game with, rather than maybe trying to make friends first. I don't know. We talked about that last episode. We don't need to rehash it again.
But the grudge part makes sense, right? Like, if you're trying to maintain friends, your actions in a game do affect in-game actions. Like, this is kind of proof that being nice to people can sometimes... or being mean to people or whatever can affect whether or not people target you. But and whether or not it should, I don't know. I go back and forth on that. I did want to clarify because the word suboptimal has come up several times, and I don't necessarily think that you need to play or build suboptimally to have a good group or to or whatever. First of all, I don't ever play suboptimally. I build suboptimally, and then when we're together,
play to the best of your abilities.
You build with a restriction,
exactly.
and then play as best you can.
And I hope that all of you always play the best you can. I think the only suboptimal play I might have is, well, of course, limited by my abilities, but also early in the game when it might be useful to send everything at one person, I will sometimes spread out the damage. Well, I attacked you last turn, so I'll attack you the next turn.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to knock someone out 30 minutes before the game actually ends.
Yeah.
Or an hour or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just another trait of a multiplayer free-for-all game. It just feels bad when one person is out for a long time. I mean, the same
That's
was
true.
true when we were playing Smash Brothers as kids. You know, one person gets targeted at the beginning. That just feels really bad to sit out for 10 to 15 minutes while the other two people fight. Like that. If we're here to play a game together, let's all play a game. You might win or have a better chance knocking somebody out early, but imagine if you were on the playground and I don't know, once you got tagged, you were out and you got tagged first. Like, you're out. Go sit on the bench while we keep playing.
Watch us have fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's not usually what I imagine when I have a fun game night planned.
That's like, to go with the Grudges. It's like the game does have to end. Someone does have to lose first.
But it doesn't have to be early.
Yeah, it's important to just remember that, hey, this is still the game. I can't let this be personal.
Everybody's time is valuable. I don't want anybody to feel like they wasted their time coming here. Especially for us specifically. Like, we live so far away that it's, for Benjamin to drive to our shop, it's, 45 minutes?
Yeah, if there's no traffic,
or a little
it's like
longer,
45
maybe,
minutes.
50?
But sometimes, like, if there is traffic, it's...
The way there, usually after work, is probably longer for you, huh? So, I mean, when all of us are driving 30 minutes to our shop, or if we're going to Derek's and it takes us an hour, we live in Houston, so an hour drive is not, like, unheard of. But it's valuable time. I would love to spend my time playing Magic if I'm driving that far of a distance, rather than, you know, being a couple feet away watching YouTube videos while you guys play Magic. Like, that's
and
not
so that
my idea
not knocking people out, even if that would increase your chances of winning, I think that's an okay way to play suboptimally, because it's like an added restriction. Can I win even though I didn't knock you out when I first had a chance? I do plan to knock you out, just not now, right? It's like the get up, you know, instead of stomping you while you're down.
Some of the guys that I watch on YouTube who play Yu-Gi-Oh together, they'll say that they're giving the other person a homie drop. It's like, okay, I could beat you this turn. I'm going to let you draw another card and see if you can find your way out of this. I could beat you this turn. I'm going to let you draw another card. So they'll give each other a homie drop to say, you know, we're good friends. I want to beat you at your best. I want to see if you can find your way out of this puzzle I've created.
Okay, so I interrupted you earlier. What is the nuclear option?
So the nuclear option is whenever you throw all your inhibitions out the window and you spend every possible resource you have targeting one person. Basically, the nuclear option, or going nuclear, is taking a grudge and turning it up to 11. Saying, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing in this game, I'm going to make sure that you lose. I'm going to point all my resources, all my bombs, at one person specifically. I have heard a couple of podcasts talk about this, and I want to see what you guys think of this as a political option. Do you think it's worth it to occasionally go nuclear as a way of sending a message to your other players to say, don't mess with me because this is what I'll do to you? Or I don't value my own status in this game at all. I'm going to spend all resources I have to take somebody else down.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely guilty of this. If someone target, you know, or if I feel like someone has been the sole reason that like my deck is not doing the thing, or like the reason why I know I'm in a losing position, and it's like, well, I'm gonna die next turn either way, from, you know, either option A or option B. But I have an option on my turn to also either kill or severely weaken someone else's board. And you're that person that's been messing with me. It's like, well, you know, I can't beat you, but I can make sure you don't win. You know, and it's not always, but it is just, I feel like you have to really mess with my board for a good portion of the game, where it's like, I couldn't play at all because of you. You're not going to win this game now because of me. That's my final retribution.
When you decide on the nuclear option, what has gone through your head up to that point, and what do you hope for the future after that game is over?
So I wanted to talk about Randy, is that I learned early on, because I used to mess with Randy. He used to be an easy target, because like we said, like he didn't know what the
just
cards
the
did
newest player in
sometimes.
our group for sure.
Yeah, and he was the easy target to pick on sometimes. But I guess maybe he hit the nuclear option, or maybe I was being a little unsportsmanlike conduct outside of the game, with like maybe being too mean or something like that. I don't know. Eventually, he starts getting maybe personal or something like that, and Randy gets salty or something, and. When Randy hit the nuclear button, he throws everything to the wind. He's like, the only thing I care about is making you lose. And I'm going to lose no matter what, but I'm going to make sure you lose with me. And he did that. I think he's done that to me a couple times, and I've learned, you know what? Maybe I won't do this. Maybe I'll hit somebody else first.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not an always thing I do, but I know there's been a time where if I could have gone nuclear, and it was in a game of Risk, and then if I had the option to go nuclear, I would have. And I still hold the grudge a little bit to this day. I was playing Risk.
Oh, that one?
And this is why, to this day, I have never played Risk since this day. Since it happened, I have never played it, and I never will play it again. Like, don't ever invite me to play Risk. I will not play. I was playing with Derek and his old roommate named Clint.
Hi, Clint.
And they have been living together and playing Risk a bunch, for fun. Yeah. And they invite me over to play. I'm like, I really don't... This isn't my kind of game, but I'll play because I'm a social gamer. I like to play to have fun with friends. So, three of us are playing Risk. I'm, the new person, absolutely getting dominated. As soon as they kill me... They look across the table and go, diplomacy? And they shake hands, and that's the end of the game.
The game is over? The context is that there were like 6 other people. We had been playing for like 3 hours. We had class.
I don't remember any of this.
It was like 10 or 11. I think it was like a Thursday night. And Clint and I had decided, I think like under the table somewhere somehow, that like, hey, let's just work together to kill him, and then we'll just, we'll shake hands and.
No. I'm sorry, it wasn't 6 people. I remember there was one other person across the table from me, so it was 4 of us total. I think he went out, and then I went out, and then y'all shook hands.
I think there was. I think there was 5 at least, because there was one guy we all teamed up on because he was.
I don't remember that. I scorched earth this in my own brain, my own memory.
But yeah, we did beat everyone else. I had half the world, he had the other half, and we said diplomacy, and we shook hands. And
I mean, Randy, would you have rather them continue to fight it out for another hour?
He's about to hit nuclear. Get down.
I like to say that was over 10 years ago now, so I can't remember the exact specifics of it. But I just remember that it was like, okay, this is supposed to be a game of 1v1v1. Okay, that's where we're at.
And they had teamed up,
and then they just teamed up, and then just like drilled me down, even though I was by far the weakest position and had the least strategy in this game. And then I was like, no, y'all need to fight this out.
Like the two of them teaming up.
It's like this is the last game of the night.
The rules of engagement of what the game was supposed to have been.
Yeah. Right. And it felt. I can't remember if that was the same game where Derek had some crocodile tears about like, oh, no, Monopoly. Okay, that was a different game where Derek had a pity party of crocodile tears, and we gave him a little.
Well, let me tell you.
He came back and won. He was, I have $20 to my name, and then he came back and won the whole game.
God, I don't know how I'm gonna feed my family.
Yeah, we're over there pity partying them. So yeah, I am a user of the nuclear option. I don't need checks and balances. In my mind, I'm the dictator, and I have the nuclear football all the time. But I try not to let it go out of the game.
I have used the nuclear option, but I try to use it very sparingly against things that get to me personally. Because if I go all out and completely overreact, 200%, then the chances of somebody doing that thing that annoyed me are much less in the future. And the card that I'm going to talk about, you guys probably already know, is Randy. Do you know it? New Blood.
Something blood.
That's right. It's called New Blood.
Wait.
It's
Okay.
A card in Benjamin's Edgar Markov deck. Not sure if you still have it in that deck. Oh yeah. Well, so it requires you to tap a vampire, and then, which is super easy in Edgar Markov because you get extra vampires for free, and then you get to steal another player's creature, and it becomes a vampire. So anything that was on that creature that refers to a creature type now refers to vampires instead. I remember the game where Benjamin used New Blood on my Archangel of Thune, which has a life gain effect that pumps all of your creatures. It gives every creature you control a +1/+1 counter. So Benjamin used New Blood, turned my Archangel of Thune into Archvampire of Thune, and just completely took over that entire game. And somewhere in the back of my head was just, black should not have creature stealing abilities, or the price should be higher, or it should require more, or whatever. Creature stealing should be blue permanently, red for 1 turn, and black shouldn't get it. I was on a huge color pie kick for a long time. But I decided, and Benjamin, I've done this even to other players. I briefly continued playing in my other group, and one of them had an Edgar Markov deck, and I told him, listen, if you play New Blood, I'm going to quit, walk out of this apartment. I'm just going to pack up, and I'm going to leave. And then he did, and I packed up and left.
I applaud you for, sticking with it.
I told him, I was like, that is a card that rustles my jimmies. And when I see it, if you want to win that way by steal, I think he stole Adrix and Nev, which is an elf token doubler.
Mm-hmm. Oh, doubling vampire tokens.
Oh yeah. So now you play a vampire, play a 1-mana vampire, you get 2 vampire tokens. So I was like, nope, you won this game. I'm out. See y'all later. I don't think that was the last time I played with them, but it was pretty close. Pretty close.
Yeah.
I've tried to go nuclear in the same way that Randy has, where like if you do something that disrupts me so bad that I can't come back from, I want to make sure I drag you down. But like the lizard part of my brain is like, but I need to win. So I don't stick to my guns long enough. Right. I'm like, but the threat assessment, it's not good. So I'm not super good at that. But in the same way you hate New Blood, I hate Jaleva, which is a very similar type card where it steals your cards. You can't do anything. You can't play the game. And that's a card. It's like, as soon as I see it, I'm gonna throw everything I have at you to make sure you have a bad time.
That is something that I've learned in recent games, or I guess in the last year or so, ever since I had that Jaleva deck, was like, okay, creature theft is not something that my friends like all that much. And I've done it enough times where I don't necessarily need to keep building decks that do this.
Yeah.
Because they're my friends.
It's
they're
like,
not just a tool to play.
If you're gonna take something, that's kind of why I built the the Tariel
so you can
deck.
Steal our stuff.
Because it's like, I'm at least taking it out of your grave. It's out of your graveyard.
You were done with it. You already played.
It's like at least. Yeah. You're done with that toy. Now it's my turn.
Totally done, isn't it? Or totally different to steal something from somebody's deck or hand or battlefield than to steal something that's in the graveyard.
Yeah, and I know the graveyard is the source and things can be recurred, but it's
exactly.
You either played the mana and had your time with it, or it got milled into there and you never had to spend money on it.
You never had it in the first place.
Mana on it to begin with. Yeah, so it doesn't hurt as bad, and I don't feel as bad trying to take something out of the graveyard. Yeah. And it's random.
If Jaleva only stole creatures, or if she didn't exile the cards, or if she does 4 things and all of them just make a really bad time
I
for
won
me.
with Jaleva once by casting her so many times that I exiled somebody's library. It's just like, well, you don't get to draw anymore.
That's pretty good.
I decided that you can't play the game anymore. But I don't give you the courtesy of leaving and dying. No, you're here trapped with me until I say
until you're upkeep, and then you go.
Benjamin, do you have anything that makes you go nuclear or consider going nuclear?
I'm too much of a I like to be the underdog and try to, when y'all 3v1 me and I deserve it, that there's no better feeling than that for me. No.
That's not the underdog.
I like playing from behind. So there are times where there's a lock or something on me, and I don't want to quit. Like everybody else is like, this is like people who hate stacks or hate land destruction or stuff like that. I'm like, I want to see if I can get out of it. Right? It's like a puzzle. So most of the time, if I'm in a losing position, either it's so obvious that I'm like, okay, I'm willing to concede and we can end the game and move on to the next one because you won. Or if there's a chance, I want to take that chance, right? And so for me, what makes me want to go nuclear, it's always just in game. It doesn't carry from game to game. I very rarely will I pick up and leave. I can't think of it. It would have to be an out of game action that would make me want to say, all right, I'm packing up and leaving. And maybe not coming back. Yeah. But in game, the big thing for me is that I will go nuclear in a game if I feel like it makes sense story-wise. And I'm not usually much of a story person. I play Magic, and I'll play things that don't go with each other or whatever, even if, whatever. But if I'm being...
Because their mechanics work well together,
because the
even if the characters don't know each other.
Exactly, right? I don't care about the aesthetics as, so much. But if I think that my place in the story, whether if it's Risk, if I think that the world leader that I'm pretending to be, if it's Magic and I think me or my commander, if it makes sense to be like, I'm dying and I'm going to take you with me, I will do that. And I'll say, you know what? I'm dying. There's still 3 of you left. I'm the first one to die. I'm going to send everything I have at the person who is killing me. But only if it feels like something I would do, the in-game me, right? Otherwise, I like
this collective narrative we created.
Yeah, and I know that probably seems really weird, but I'm not somebody who likes to metagame in the sense of relationships. I like the game to be the game and the relationship to be the relationship, and I don't want to manipulate outside of the game. Like earlier, Randy was like, "Oh, you're trying to get us to go easy on you," and I wish I had that sort of forethought and whatever. But
I'm just.
I know. I'm not. I don't want to do that outside of the game. In the game, I will try to convince you that someone else is the threat or whatever. And in the game, of course, I'm trying to win. But out of the game, it's like the game happened, and now we're not there anymore. We're outside of that, right? And so I don't...
The game happened and it created a fun story that we can tell now that we're just friends.
Yeah, and
we can tell that story over dinner or whatever.
And because I try to keep the games separate, I also try to keep individual games separate. And so I don't like to... It doesn't feel right with me to be like, I'm trying to send a message for future games. And so I won't do that. But within a game, if I feel like it makes sense from where I am, my perspective in that game, then I will do it. I don't know if that makes sense, but...
Well, Benjamin, you're just a better person than the rest of us.
Yeah, 100%.
Things to aspire to.
Because I've definitely been in the spot of, I'm going to destroy something of Derek's, even though it's not really a threat at this moment, and I'm going to be like, this is for last game! When you took away my commander on turn 2! You never hurt nobody! Then that's usually pretty much it. There have been at least one time, probably a couple times, where I feel like me and Derek have played games and things have gone nuclear, even though we're not playing against one another. We'll play a co-op game, and like I said, I'm there for fun. I'm there to Derek's my best bud. Like that's what I'm there.
We fight like brothers.
Yeah, and so if stuff happens and it's like, oh, well, I'm sorry, my bad. Derek can sometimes, go nuclear, and taken it out of. We were playing. I don't know what we were playing, but I think you said something like I think you called me stupid or something.
Ooh.
I don't remember what it was, but
Derek. No.
I mean, but is it the heat?
Divinity. Original
maybe yes, it was Divinity because Justin and all them were there, and so we were playing that, and you just I may have done something, but you like snapped at me, and I was like, all right, and I just went, close, exit, logged off of Discord, and turned off the computer and walked away. I was like, you went nuclear, so I ended it, and everyone's like, fair. Oh no, but 2 hours later, I'm like.
It's that Curb Your Enthusiasm
hey,
and you'll have to bleep this, but you, I'll see you tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, a couple hours later, I'll text him and be like, again, you have to bleep this. It's like, hey, what you doing?
Just thinking about yesterday and how I'm sorry.
Yeah. Even if we do go nuclear out of the game, it goes too far, because we are such good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have worked on that relationship, and we're willing to work on that relationship. It's able to get swept under the rug. And I mean, there's been times I wanted to choke Derek.
Yeah, sometimes I want to smother Randy.
Yeah. But we get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't hold the grudge.
I think the reason that I don't let games go nuclear is because, despite what it may feel like to Travis, I spent most of my gaming life is spent losing, right? Losing to Dad, losing to Will,
Mom and John.
Yeah, to Mom and John for a while. Losing to Will. My wife is really good at games and wins constantly, except at Boggle, and that's because I played Scrabble so much. And nowadays, pretty much any video game I play, I'm gonna lose because I just don't have time to play video games. And so I spend a lot more time losing than winning. A lot of time. Or at least used to. And if I was going to go nuclear, I would have no one to play with. Right? And so I kind of had to make that decision pretty early on that I do play to win, but my goal isn't winning. My goal is self-improvement. And I'm not going to improve if I flip a table, right? I'm just going to lose people.
You're just stuck with AI for the rest of your life.
Right, exactly.
You're reminding me of things that we say in education often. It's like, if you quit or you say you can't do it, then you will be right.
Right.
You won't do it if you don't keep playing the game, in this case. But if you don't practice or if you don't try, then you will never get better at it. And if you're playing a multiplayer game, especially a game with 4 people like Magic the Gathering, and, I mean, statistics say that you will only win 25% of those games.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, so 75%, that 75% of your time should be, I'm using air quotes there, should be spent losing if everybody's on an equal playing field. So get used to it. It's part of the experience if you're going to decide to play a multiplayer game where only one person can win.
Yeah, I forget which podcast it was where they talked about how in an evenly matched group, you would only win 25% of your games. But I remember hearing that, and it's part of what inspired me to power down my decks with y'all. Was if I was winning 40% of the time, that would still feel like I was losing most of the time, because I would be. I'm losing 60% of the time, but it's still way too much, right? It means that the 3 of you are only winning 20% of the time, right?
Yeah.
And I'm winning twice as much, and that's not gonna make for a good long-term play group. So, and this may be another topic, but it really caused me to kind of look inside and say, I know I want to win, because winning is fun, let's be honest, but I also need to be okay with losing to be able to make sure that we're all having a good time. And that's something I'm trying to teach my kids, right? My 5-year-old, I taught them a game today that's probably way too advanced for a 5-year-old, and of course he lost. But my daughter, my 8-year-old daughter, won that game, and we were all excited for her, and he was very upset that he lost. And trying to teach them, like, of course you're going to lose the first time you learn a game that's too advanced for you. Like, you cannot expect to win all the time, and no one can, and no one should. But I feel like we have this mindset where we value winning so much. I don't know.
Hey, this is America.
Right.
We love to win.
Is that
we
the
only
American
win.
And it might be, that hey, winning is everything.
Or exceptionalism or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the cause. I just know that there's I think the people that need to be listening to this podcast are the same people who are complaining on Reddit, are the same people who are out there who are putting the game above their friendships, right? It's what the whole purpose of this is to say the game isn't above your friendships. The game is your friendship. It's a game of friendship. And if you're not winning that game, you're not winning any game. Right?
Aw, Benjamin. That was so special. That was really good.
Thanks. I just came up with that. But yeah, but like that's the game that we're playing, right? And that I can't put the game above the people I came to play with. And now once you're willing to play with me and we're playing the same game on the same terms and I think that you can handle this loss, all right, fine, I'll be the one to give it to you. But maybe I will try to be the one to give it to you. but at the same time, I think it's important that we as a society and you as a gaming group, whoever's listening, right, take a moment to set your priorities and then conform your actions to your priorities, right? Enjoy the rivalry. Don't hold grudges long term, right? Whatever happened on that game night, good or not, like next time you get together, it's time to have fun again. You don't need to...
Yeah, new game.
Yeah.
I know Travis watches Ted Lasso. Maybe y'all have too. But one of the things that Ted Lasso says to his player, he's a coach teaching soccer in England, and he tells his players, be a goldfish, because they only remember like 2 seconds or 5 seconds, something like that. Mm-hmm. So if you're upset in the last game, be a goldfish, forget it, go on to the next game and have fun in the next game.
Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do. I'll be honest. When I get home after playing with y'all, like there are some losses that I remember or some things that happened and I'm like, I didn't like that. Yeah. But I really tried to not get salty and instead say, all right, how can I change that for next time? Like, first I kind of think about, should I be okay with that? Should I be upset? Is that something I need to talk about with the guys or something? And usually I decide, no, that's a personal problem. I need to get good. I need to build a better deck. I need to actually include things that can get around indestructible. Or I need to actually protect my commander for a change and not just...
Sometimes I have to just play green.
Right.
If I want to beat Thrun.
Exactly.
Ain't nothing wrong with it, baby.
If you can't beat him, you got to join him.
Yep. So, yeah, there's the combination of, hey, I want to improve myself, and then I want to maintain these friendships, and yeah, the short attention span for life. Like, the game, it's going to have its ebbs and flows, it's going to have its emotional highs and lows, but being able to weather those so that you can maintain the friendship above trying to win a particular game. You can be really good at your game and be a winner and still be okay losing particular games. And so I think maybe that's where that was going. I don't remember.
When we were at our local card shop, that drive home is like 35 minutes for me. It's a nice cool down period if I am salty from the last game we played or something like that. I'm like, oh. And by the time I get home, it's like, I don't even remember what I was mad about.
And I think that goes back to something that we talked about last episode. Make sure that you continue texting those same friends and blatantly tell them with no secret hidden language, I had fun, or let's do this again, or I liked the part when. Really codify it and talk about the things that you enjoyed. Highlight the good moments from your games together so that you can reinforce the positive aspects of the relationships that you're forming. And that's something that we do usually when everybody gets home, is we say, hey, I'm home safe. I had a good time. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I like that we all text when we get home. It makes me know that you guys didn't die in a ditch somewhere on the way home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing, like, I'll be sitting here mad that, oh man, I was mad that he killed my commander and he died in the ditch on the way home. Kind of puts everything in perspective.
Yeah, for real. Any closing thoughts? This was a long one.
Let's see. Closing remarks. No, I'm good.
It's a game.
Yeah.
Abide by the social construct, the social contracts that you set at the beginning of the game. I don't know. Love your friends.
On the subject of grudges, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
With like, it's the same with like relationships, like being married or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't say or do something that you can't take back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, you know, don't ring a bell because you can't unring it.
Well, now that you mention it, that's really good, and I do.
Well, let me open this can of worms.
Since you've opened it, you know, and this is something I was thinking about a lot after our last episode. This stuff, while we are talking about games and especially Magic and all this stuff, but these are just rules for life. These are just things that if you want to have good relationships, you go find them, you go communicate well, you do those things to develop those relationships. And same thing for today, right? Find your priorities. Make sure you find people that iron sharpening iron doesn't just apply to gaming, it applies to life, right? You find those people that you can have friendly competitions with and do that. And same thing with going nuclear. Derek, you said it well when you said don't ring a bell, you can't unring it, and it applies to marriages, absolutely.
I was thinking, like, this is also, you can use in the workplace and stuff. Like, someone is better at you at something.
Yeah.
And
just
keep practicing and keep with them. They'll, learn everything that person has to know. And then once you've, like, caught up to their level, go on to the next person. It works for games, works for work. It's all, there's always someone better and there's always somewhere to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, guys. Great advice. And like we've said last episode and this episode, even though this is a gaming podcast, I think it's secretly a friendship podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can find more My Mythical Meta anywhere you can find Eldorado Gaming. Eldorado Gaming's home website is eldoradogaming.com, but you can also find us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you very much. Good night. This podcast was edited by me, Travis Konashek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos. Check him out.